Welcome to the virtual couch. Please take a seat. For pillars, emotional maturity, and for pillars, want a treat. You're not broken, you are human, so check that out.
Testing.
You don't know what you don't know is what it's all about.
Hey, everybody. Therapist question and answer. Real life therapist. Although I'm not your therapist, but I want your questions. I was going to say I want your answers and I will provide you with the questions. That would not be very helpful. But I want your questions and I will provide you with the answers. And this thing is live. I'm going to start with talking about a thing called the narcissistic friendship cycle. And we do not have to even talk about narcissism tonight. I got a heart. Okay, right out of the gate. Thank you. Thank you for the heart. So narcissistic friendship cycle. Here's the setup. So today has been a heavy narcissistic day in therapy. If I'm thinking about the main theme of today, it is when somebody wakes up to the narcissism, narcissistic traits, tendencies, states, or emotional immaturity in their life, they often find that they are playing the role of the people pleaser, the pathologically kind person, the person that draws into them the more narcissistic or emotionally immature person. So when they start to step out of that role and they realize, wait a minute, it is okay for me to think my own thoughts and have my own opinions, and I don't have to defend myself. And it can often feel like anything that I say, this narcissistic person takes the opposite view. So anything I could say that I don't know, that I like cats, and then the person's going to say, I can't stand cats, even if they literally, their job is that they are a cat farmer. I don't think that a cat farmer is an actual job if they rescue cats, but then all of a sudden they're like, oh, I don't even like them. And if you're saying, but what about all those cats right there? I don't know what you're talking about. And then enter gaslighting. But anyway, when people start to wake up to the role they play in a narcissistic friendship cycle, there's a brief moment where, this happened a couple of times today, where the person says, okay, all of a sudden I think that everybody around me seems to be pretty narcissistic or very emotionally immature. And so what do? They typically say, so doesn't that mean that I'm the problem? If everybody else seems that way, then it must be me. But that's where I hate to break it to this person, but it's actually the role that you play in the friendship. You're the one who then does not actually feel like you get to feel heard or understood, but you're the one that continually validates the person who is going through things in life. Maybe they're continually coming to you and telling you all about their drama or the challenges they have in their relationship or their life. And what do? You are so kind. You have the patience and you say, man, that sounds really difficult. I can't even imagine. You seem really incredible and brave. And they say, wow, I think that we really have a good relationship. When in reality, it's because you're just validating them. So often people say that they want real connection. They want deep, intimate relationships, but really they just want validation. They want you to tell them that they are amazing and wonderful and they are handling everything around them incredibly well, and everybody else doesn't understand them. So what does that look like in a narcissistic friendship cycle? That is this concept, or that's the part where it's the idealization or the love bombing. So since you make them feel good about themselves, then you are good. And as long as you agree with them and you don't actually ask for things in the relationship, then you guys are going to get along great. And you're going to feel like, man, this relationship is great. But I think often it's because you are probably used to playing that role of being the person who is just validating them, that you're not actually asking for your needs to be met. And I have Sydney here off screen, so I will be probably asking you questions, Sid, so I don't feel like I'm here on my own till we get some questions coming in. But have you ever been this person who you were the one that others came to in the friendship? And yes. Okay. Okay. Should I feel? Okay. It's draining.
You want me to talk?
Well, okay. Yeah. Okay. So.
I feel like it's just like, it's like when I was emotionally immature, I loved being in those friendships because it was validation, like you said, but once I matured, I realized it was just empty validation, and they were just like draining me of all my happy energy. I feel like literally, like they would just go to me constantly for reassurance, and like, but like you said, I don't think they even liked me, like at all. It was weird.
Okay. Okay, that is sometimes you hear that the narcissistic friend is the emotional vampire, and they're draining because all they want to do is suck the life out of you, the energy out of you. They want you to continually tell them that what they did is right and what everybody else did is wrong, that they are incredible the way that they handled it. And if you start to say, I've had similar experience, I'm like, they're going to make it about them again. And it does. It sucks up a lot of emotional calories, and then you can start to think, okay, why is it that when I need something in the relationship, now everybody disappears? And I think I find that a lot in people that play that role of, I call it the pathologically kind, where if you look at that concept of something that is pathological, it's to your detriment. So kindness is an amazing, wonderful thing, and in a healthy, mutually reciprocal relationship, then you are being kind, they're being kind, you're being curious, they're being curious. But in a narcissistic friendship cycle, you play one role, and that is to validate the narcissistic person and tell them that they are amazing and wonderful. Now, so idealization, that's the love bombing part of the relationship. And we often think of love bombing as something that's more in a romantic relationship with the narcissistic person. But in reality, the love bombing is everything that they tell you that, man, we just get along so well. And I think that too. And basically, it's like they're kind of sucking you into their orbit or their world. And so that then they can now use you as a supply to get their validation.
Or not wanting you to have other friends.
Oh, not wanting you to have other friends.
Best friend.
Yes.
That feels like kind of that.
It is, yeah. Needing you to be like you are the only one. We call it sequestering in the business. Where sequestering, if you think about when people get sequestered as a jury, they put the jury in a hotel and they have no contact with the outside world while they're trying to decide an outcome. And when the narcissistic person sequesters, they want to make sure that you don't go outside of your relationship with them, and talk about them to other people. And they will often say, man, I don't really think that other friend is a good friend of yours. I mean, they've been talking a lot of trash about you, when in reality, that's probably not even the case. But it's a way to then isolate you, because if they isolate you, then you eventually need them, and you depend on them as well. So we got that idealization of love bombing. They shower a friend with a lot of attention and compliments and affection so quickly. And that's what builds that just immediate strong bond of every single thing that we talk about, we're so in alignment with, which I think is fascinating, because I think a lot of people, they say, but don't we want to have the same thoughts and opinions? And doesn't that make the relationship easier? And it really doesn't. At first, it's going to feel comfortable. And I think that's what draws us into certain relationships. It feels very familiar. But in reality, the differences are what can really drive a real intimacy in a relationship, because you're two different human beings with different experiences. So if you can recognize that, then of course we have different thoughts and opinions on things, then you can be really curious about what the person that you're in a relationship thinks and believes. And they're not trying to tell you you're wrong and they're right. And that can really drive a more intimate connection. Okay, so tell me when we get any questions coming in or anything, Sid. Okay. All right. So, okay. And I would love to, please ask me any questions you have, especially around, if you want tonight, relationships.
Oh, here's one.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
How do I fix low self-esteem and self-worth?
Okay. How do I fix low self-esteem and self-worth? First of all, thank you for asking the question, because you, not to sound like I'm going to be too cliched with this answer, but the fact that you are asking and you are here listening to a TikTok live with a therapist is a good start, because you are seeking help, and you're seeking help in hopefully the right places. Too often, and if we go back to this narcissistic friendship cycle, for example, if I am looking to somebody who does not have, we'll say, my best interest in mind, and I'm asking them, how do I be more confident? Most likely they're going to give you advice that is going to keep you in this one down position in a friendship or in a relationship. So one of the things I would ask is, in the relationships that you're in now, and whether it's in a significant other relationship, a friendship, if it's a parent-child relationship, if you feel like you are continually made to question yourself, or you're put in a one down position, know that is it's a calorie sink. It's an emotional calorie sink where you're going to spend a lot of time wondering, what is wrong with me? Why can't I figure things out? Because that's part of what's going to lead to this lower self-esteem. I talk about what I call the emotional baseline, and we want to raise your emotional baseline. Too often, people feel like they just think that they just don't know what to do, and they feel so down and drained and just kind of this lacking self-confidence. But then everything around them is happening, all the decisions that come at you from a day-to-day basis. But when your baseline of emotions is so low, it'll feel like you don't even know what to do. And it just seems like when people are trying to give you advice, they're saying, well, just don't worry about it, or just try harder, or just choose to be happy. And those things sound like words that would be helpful, but when your emotional baseline is low, what does that even look like? Or how do I reach up and get the tools to raise my emotional baseline to start to feel better? So you need to start with just some real simple self-care things. We often want to go for these big sweeping changes. I'm going to go run a marathon, or take a course, or go back to school, or I want to do these things that will make me feel better right now. But in reality, those might give you a little temporary bump, but you're typically going to return back to this home base. So you want to take these smaller steps. Just start to go on a walk, read a book that you like, interact with a pet, hang out with a friend that is not going to criticize you. Positive affirmations, is that part of the questions, or are you wondering about that? Okay, it did. Okay, so positive affirmations. And what's funny about that, Sid, is I think positive affirmations help when they do, but then there are times they don't. And there's some interesting research. I'm going to pull this up here real quick. It's from a book called The Confidence Gap, which is one of my favorite books about acceptance and commitment therapy, which is my therapy model of choice. And do you remember what kind of positive affirmations you were using? Or you were?
I do that all the time.
Okay.
It's just like changing like my relationship with myself in my head.
Yeah. So
I used to like hate on myself in my head.
you did. Okay. And so then,
You can't hear me. So
okay, but Sydney's saying that, yeah, changing that relationship of who you are in your head, right? Let me find this data, because I think it's really fascinating. Hang on. Because the positive affirmations are one of those that it really does work. And I want to say this thing, except for if it doesn't. Okay, here we go. Okay, this is kind of a fun one, actually. Will you chime in off camera, Sid? Okay, 3 questions, and then that'll get to the positive affirmations. Do you know who Albert Einstein is? Okay, true or false? Albert Einstein was a below average school student. Have you heard this one?
I don't know.
True or false?
I don't know.
Okay, she said false.
Care.
You only use 10% of your brain. Have you heard that?
Yeah, that's true. I don't know.
Okay,
I
no,
don't believe that guy. I don't believe the guy who said that either.
okay, and then here, and this is why this is fascinating. Positive self-statements such as "I will succeed" or "I am lovable" are a good way to boost low self-esteem.
True.
Okay, so what's fascinating, so again, it was Albert Einstein was a below average school student. You only use 10% of your brain, or positive statements like "I will succeed" or "I am lovable" are a good way to boost low self-esteem. Most people answer true to most or all of those statements, and it makes sense. And part of that is like we want to know that Albert Einstein did bad in school, and then he went on to become one of the smartest people ever, because it tells us that, okay, if we just apply ourselves, we can be incredibly smart as well. Or the message that you use 10% of your brain is trying to say that, okay, think if you used more of your brain.
How would he even know that if he's only using 10% of his brain?
That's a good point. Sid said, how would somebody know that if they're only using 10% of their brain? And then the last one is that positive self-statements will give you higher self-esteem. And the message that it's trying to convey is that you can use positive self-statements to eliminate the negative self-talk, that it will eliminate it from your brain. And as you may have guessed from my tone here, that those are actually, they're considered facts, but they're actually all false. Albert Einstein did do poorly in French in high school, apparently, but other than that, he was a genius. And this is the fascinating one. As for using only 10% of your brain, that idea actually came from the 1900s. So early in the 1900s, when people really didn't know a lot about the brain. And there's actually no scientific fact about that. And matter of fact, this book, Confidence Gap, says it's actually complete and utter nonsense. Scientists have studied the way brain extensively works in a myriad of different ways, from MRIs to PET scans. and they've never located one single part of the brain that's redundant. Every part of it serves a function, so you use 100% of it every day. So if you have a stroke or a tumor or a disease or injury destroys a little part of the brain, then that usually results in a significant disability. So if you have a traumatic brain injury, you're going to notice that. So you're using your brain. But the positive affirmations, this one's pretty fascinating. Chances are you've probably read or you've been told that if you have low self-esteem, that you just need to tell yourself positive things about yourself. And if you do that over and over, you'll start to believe them. And I will again say, when that works, because it works for a lot of people, like I appreciate you saying that, Sid, then it's amazing and wonderful, because there's a version of those that work really well. But here's the study. In 2009, a team of psychologists, they published a groundbreaking study in Psychological Science magazine, which is one of the top 10 psychology journals in the world. Their study entitled Positive Self-Statements, Power for Some, Peril for Others. So know right there, they are very powerful for some people, and for others, they can actually have a negative effect. Showed that people with low self-esteem actually feel worse after repeating positive self-statements, such as "I am a lovable person" or "I will succeed." And again, if those work for somebody, that's wonderful. But often people do that, and then they don't feel good, or they feel even worse. And it's because they typically trigger this negative reaction. Because if somebody has really low self-esteem, if that emotional baseline is really low, as soon as they say that, "I am a lovable person," their own mind would answer back and say, "Not really." And then it would run through a list of all the ways that they find themselves unlovable. And then this would make that person start to feel worse. But on the other hand, if they were told it was okay to have negative thoughts about themselves, their mood tended to lift. So it was an acceptance of, okay, I'm noticing that I'm feeling kind of crummy right now. But then the positive affirmation can be, but I'm somebody who takes action on things, or I'm somebody who is going to figure this out. So I don't know. I would love for you to poke holes in that, though, because I think that so many people, when they hear that, they're saying, okay, what? I'm not supposed to talk nice to myself?
I think I get what you're saying.
Do you?
I feel like for me...
Oh. Yeah.
I feel like for me, a lot of times, like I do feel like crap about myself. And when I feel like that, I do accept that. Like I'm not just going to be like, oh, I feel amazing right now. If I feel like crap, I feel like crap. And I will let it be known to myself, because I feel like that's a good way to process that. Yeah. But I can feel like crap and like know that I'm not crap, you know? Yeah. And even if I don't feel it, like I can have like these core beliefs about myself that I know even when I don't feel them, you know? Yeah. So like that's where I go to like, yeah, I feel like crap right now, but I'm good. Like, I'm okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Okay, so thank you, because that's the part where the acceptance doesn't mean I give up. It means that like I'm accepting the fact that right now I'm noticing that I feel that way, but I am a good person. I am one that gets things done. I'm one that will figure this out. I'm one that will make it through this. Yeah, okay.
So the person who you were saying the question to, answering their question, said something else. They said, "I think I have just disconnected my emotions and myself. Like I already predict that I'm not good."
Okay. And I think it goes without saying for me to say, man, I that would be really difficult. And I know that can be really hard for people when they notice that they have disconnected from their feelings, or they already are, so here's the thing. Our brain is a prediction engine, and it is trying to predict things that will happen because we desperately want to know. We want certainty. And it can be really difficult to convince yourself or predict that I am going to be okay if your experience has not necessarily been the case. So that's where I think being able to change the relationship with your thoughts is really important. And this is going to sound maybe like a little bit of we'll call it a psychological hack, but it's really powerful. And if you are noticing that you are feeling depressed, rather than just saying, I'm depressed, honestly, if you can put a tiny bit of space and just say, okay, I'm noticing that I'm feeling depressed. Because there might be other times where you are noticing you're feeling hungry, or you're noticing you're feeling tired, or you're noticing that you actually are feeling happy. And too often when we're almost committed to this, but I'm not feeling good, then we won't even allow ourselves to have those other feelings or emotions. And part of the human experience is that we can have all of those feelings or emotions even within a minute, or within, a couple of minutes. I can hear somebody saying something that kind of resonates, and I might think, okay, no, that makes sense. That might even make me feel a little bit of hope or feel better. But then all of a sudden, my brain might come crashing down in and saying, okay, but that doesn't mean you're good. That might mean things aren't great, because I think this all goes back to the fact that your brain is a don't get killed device. It wants to live, and it wants you to find purpose and meaning and value. It wants you to connect to others and have friendships and all these wonderful things. But then when that is difficult, or we don't feel like we have control of that, or we are in relationships, or there are people in our lives that we just don't really feel like they see us, or they're as curious, or they want to know us, then your own brain is saying, I don't know about this. Like, this does not feel good. But we typically then, when we tell ourselves that, then we get down, and instead of really, I think what our emotions are trying to communicate to us is, yeah, we need to do something different. And let's go deep here for a second. Let's talk about your inner child. Oh, okay. I was about to.
Some guy, sorry, not some guy, Chazel, said that he missed seeing these lives. And he said, association and prediction machines projecting the past onto the future.
Oh, yes.
Okay, and then Riddle Nerd sent you a heart, and he said, I've changed my thinking from I am to I am having ... thoughts.
Hey, these people. This. Okay, Chazel, Riddle Nerd. Wonderful. Like, that stuff is real. Okay, Riddle Nerd.
Then
Chazel said,
imagine we hacked our brains.
imagine we hacked our brain to be our own best friends instead of our own worst enemies. That would be amazing. And you can change the relationship with your thoughts. And I think one of the most misunderstood concepts is this concept of your implicit memory, or what it feels like to be you or me or Sid, is based on the slow residue of your lived experience. That does not sound exciting. The fact that it can take a fair amount of time to change that implicit memory, or what it feels like to be you. And so every time that you notice that you are feeling sad instead of I am sad, or I notice that I'm feeling a little bit down versus like I am down, that it's think of this like deeply rutted a rut in a field that is, the water is going down. It's going to water something. I'm not a farmer, so I'm sure that's like watering something that needs to be watered. But every time that you notice you are thinking something versus I am, it's like you're taking your foot and you're scraping a little bit of a path that's going outside of this deeply rutted rut. Man, this is not as cool as I think it would be. But then that water goes a little bit more, and the more you do it, eventually then that new path will form. But it takes a long time. Yeah.
One of our girlies from a while ago said, yes, but then the feelings come with the thoughts, and thoughts go away, but the feelings are so strong and they take forever to go away.
Yeah. And that's a good point. It is. And I will tell you, I'm convinced that the reason those feelings take so long is because we've most likely ignored them for a very long time. Even the very best parent in the world is most likely telling their kid when they're growing up to not worry about something, or it's not a big deal, or you'll get over it, or how do you think that makes me feel? And so, and that's a good parent. One that is not as good is telling you to knock it off. Don't think that. Don't say that. Take it back. And so you're basically told over time that your emotions and your feelings are wrong, that you are feeling those things. It does seem like a big deal to me, but somebody's telling me it's not. Then I'll stop eventually externalizing those emotions, and I'll keep them on the inside. And so then what that communicates to me is they're not really welcome. They're a burden on other people, or I need somebody to tell me it's okay to think or feel a certain way. So when you finally do start to become older, a little more emotionally mature, when those emotions think that they've got a chance, they're going to make a break for it. And so then that's why a lot of times people feel like they're trying to keep their emotions in. And then when they come out, they just, the floodgates open. And unfortunately, I think what happens is your body, your emotions often think this might be our only chance. So let's just go for it. And so those emotions are big. But when you can start to acknowledge that they are there, I'm having this emotion, I'm noticing I'm feeling sad, or whatever that looks like, your brain is going to start to say, thank you. Don't try to get rid of me. Don't try to keep me back. Let me breathe here a little bit, because your emotions are trying to tell you something. I promise you that. They are little messengers, but typically we just don't really like the message, or we don't even want to hear the message. Yeah, Sid, is there another one?
Chazel said, I'm noticing was an important reframing for me. We play the noticing game at least once a week in our house.
Okay. Chazel, that makes me so happy. And Chazel said something earlier that I liked as well. What was it before when I gave Riddle Note?
Thought thing, the thought. Wait, do you want me to find it?
Yeah.
friends thing? Or association and prediction?
Yeah. Say that one again.
Machines projecting the past onto the future.
Yeah. So, and this is, I love this concept. Oh, okay. Okay. It is, okay. Chazal, association and prediction machines projecting the past onto the future. And I think that is our brain trying to make sense of things, and it's saying, okay, but this thing happened in the past. And one of the best things that you can do is to acknowledge it. Totally did. But because our brain is trying to, it's worried about the future, and it's ruminating about the past constantly. And it's thinking it's doing us a solid. Okay, but this thing happened in the past, and I make it sound overly simplistic, but that's where the acceptance, that totally happened. And then the worry is, but what if this won't continue into the future? Well, that would be a thing. And we are back here in the present moment. I see that happen in couples therapy so often, where the person, and I had a session today where the guy, bless his heart, kept saying, because they're here, they're wanting new tools, they're wanting to know how to communicate better, and I'm sharing those tools, and he's like, yeah, but how do I know it's going to work? And the answer is, oh, you don't. But I definitely know what you've been doing is not working so well. And it's like, but this is how we've always communicated in the past. Totally is, like 100%. Period. Because he wants me to go, oh, wait, so if you guys have communicated that way in the past and you're afraid of what could happen in the future, I mean, I guess there's nothing you can do. And that's never the case. That's the immaturity of our brain saying, well, I don't want to do it the wrong way. What is the right way? And then, but I don't know if it'll work. And it gets back to this all or nothing or black or white thinking. I don't think I answered this, but the prediction engine, yeah, I did. There we go.
Just two more.
Okay, two more.
Chazal said, I can't remember, are you familiar with IFS? And then, what do emotions feel like? Because I just don't know. That was someone else.
Okay, what do emotions feel like? Because I don't know. That was someone else asking for a friend, Sid?
Yeah. I mean, no.
Okay. Don't make me bust out the emotion wheel.
And then Riddle Nerd said, here, why don't you swing it this way?
Because it look.
What?
Nothing.
Okay. Imagine trying to swim in the ocean during high tide with an anchor around your foot.
No, thank you.
That's what emotions are like.
Okay, that's what emotions are like. So I have. Oh, I was say, where's my phone? It is right there in front of me. That's okay. An emotion wheel. Okay, you ready for it? Let's do an experiential exercise. The things that I used to be they were so uncomfortable for me early as a therapist. An experiential exercise is something we're going to do. We're going to do this. Let me find my photos. And I have I'm going to find an emotion wheel. Okay. Okay, this makes for fun stuff right now, where you are watching me look something up, and I'm trying to think of who I sent it to. Oh, I know. Okay, Sid, do you want to be my muse? And you can let's talk about emotions, okay? So when you are feeling your feelings, okay? Okay, I'm scrolling. I'm scrolling back to get to something, and okay, I did not find it. Sid, can you tell some jokes or something while I'm trying to find this?
This is a joke.
Okay, wait. I want to find the emotion wheel. Oh gosh. Okay. Okay.
It's not worth it.
I know. When it gets to this part, okay. I now I feel like, oh man, where's? Okay. Who else have I shared this with? Okay. Do I need to just give this up?
Okay. Someone else.
Here, yeah, you talk. Okay.
While you're finding your wheel.
Okay.
Kind of on the same topic, but how do I stop overthinking? Because I do it at night, and it takes 1 to 2 hours. I get that a lot.
Answer it real quick while I'm finding my wheel.
Something that helped me was like maybe you're not overthinking, maybe you're just thinking. Like, oh, I'm hearing myself like double time, and this is not helping at all. Okay. I don't know. We talked about that. It's just like when you say like, oh, I'm overthinking, it kind of like adds an extra level of stress to it, I feel like. Just accepting that maybe you are thinking, and maybe you're thinking a lot, and maybe that's fine, and maybe in 5 minutes you're going to stop thinking. And for me, I have ADHD, so I literally forget what I was overthinking about, which is like a blessing. And I'm like, okay, let's just move on now. But I can understand how like that's hard. So I don't know. for me, I feel like that was kind of, are you still looking for this feelings wheel?
Yes.
Literally Google okay. Anyways, but for me, it was just kind of like changing my relationship with my thought. And because before, when you're like, oh, I'm overthinking, you'll just overthink even more. But once you just accept it, then you'll just kind of be chill, and it won't be as stressful, and you won't be in like that like high cortisol mindset of like, oh no, like I need to figure this all out right now. Like, no, you're fine, whatever.
Okay.
Did you find your wheel?
No.
Wow.
The universe must not want.
Well, honestly, I'm pretty sure it's really easy to just explain it.
I have a very special one, Sid. And I've shared it with so many people that it's like, why on earth can I not? Oh, okay, wait. And I've seen it with so many people, and why can I not find it? But let me go back to what you are saying while
I said we should rename this Dr. Sid's couch.
Dr. Sid's, I like that. I do. Okay, Dr. Sid's couch. But what you were saying, though, overthinking is a judgment statement. It's saying that someone else knows how I should be thinking. That if I am overthinking, then that means that they know how much I should be thinking. So then, I guess I'm overthinking. I'm thinking more than that person thinks that I should think. But in reality, I'm just thinking. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe you're the smartest thinker.
Right. Maybe I'm so good at thinking that I think all the time. And everybody else is just jealous. And actually, they are underthinking, although that goes against the whole point that I'm making a judgment statement, because we're thinking as much as we're thinking. But in reality, though, there's a psychologist named Carl Rogers that is one of the OGs of psychology. And I am still looking for this emotion wheel. But he calls it the curious paradox. And what he says is, as soon as I accept myself as I am, then I can change. But if I'm still thinking that I am doing it wrong, found it. Okay. And I realize now that no one will actually see it. Right? Can you, like, on the YouTube thing, can you, like, show it?
Show your laptop.
Okay. All right, hold on. Let me close the 900 other windows that I have so that then I'm not showing off, like, confidential information.
Your Katy Perry hype music.
Wait, what? Okay.
It was Lady Gaga.
Oh. Wait, do I have Lady Gaga hype music?
Yeah.
When?
All the time.
I do.
I hear it from your office.
Okay. I don't know what's happening right now. All right. Are you ready? Let me make this photo. Here we go. Okay. Drum roll, please. Sydney, tell me if the kind people at home can see the emotion wheel. Can you see it?
Yes.
Is everybody freaking out right now? Is there like tons of hearts and stuff like that? No, they're not. No, they're not. They're really okay. Okay, let me show you. Let me show you what happens. So when you have an emotion, I even forget what the original question was. When you have an emotion in the middle of this emotion wheel, and that's why I love this one. It's simplistic. I have one at my office in California that has 900,000 emotions on it. Not exactly. But in the middle of it, it says, is your emotion uncomfortable or is it comfortable? Sydney, think of a time that you were going through something. Okay. I said you have to be my muse. Can you think of a time? You were going through something and you were feeling, okay. Was the emotion uncomfortable or comfortable? Uncomfortable. Okay. The next layer on the emotion wheel says, were you sad, scared, angry, or embarrassed? Think of this time for real.
All of the above.
That is incorrect. You were feeling one of them. Sad, scared, angry, or embarrassed.
What?
Come on.
You just invalidated my emotions.
I know. Go with me here.
Fine, scared.
Okay, so in this time, and for real, you were thinking of a time you were feeling scared.
Oh, angry, no.
Okay, angry. There we go. So you were feeling angry. Angry is a fascinating emotion because we'll talk about primary emotions, secondary emotions. Primary emotions are the emotions that you feel immediately. Secondary emotions are the ones you feel about your primary emotion. Anger is one of the few that can be both. So when somebody feels angry as a primary emotion, typically that's because there is some sort of injustice that has occurred. When anger is a secondary emotion, it might be I'm embarrassed and then I get angry. You shouldn't have done that, or I'm, because I feel embarrassed about something that happened. But I digress. Okay, so you were angry, and then were you angry because you felt bored, jealous, or annoyed?
Annoyed?
Okay, annoyed.
Those are much weaker emotions than I feel like.
Sydney said, man, that sounded so smart and amazing.
Big emotion.
I know this is simple, but trust me on this one a little bit. So in this scenario, if you're saying, all right, it was an uncomfortable emotion, it was angry, and that was annoyed, I will now reference the emotion wheel again for those that are playing along at home. whether live here or when we put this up on YouTube. And so then, and the experiential part of this that I think is really fascinating. Where do you feel that, Sid? Honestly. So if you think about when you feel angry and you were feeling annoyed, where do you feel it?
In my chest.
In your chest. Okay. And it is fascinating. I feel mine typically there too, but I have had people talk about they feel it behind their eyes. They feel it in their throat. They feel it in their stomach. A lot of people do. And then, what does it, and I know this might sound a little bit silly, but I think this is one of the best ways to start to recognize that my emotions are there and that they serve a purpose. So when you feel it and you feel it in your chest, what does it feel like? Is it spiky? Okay, it's spiky and it hurts. And then does it pulsate? Is it just constant? Okay, so it's this constant pulsating, spiky feeling in your chest. So if I was doing this with you in a therapy session, then I would ask you to, and it's funny because I'm doing it right now, I'm kind of sitting up. So you basically, you want to breathe into it, in through your nose, into the feeling of spiky, feeling of angry and annoyed into your chest. And at that point, you do 2 or 3 of those breaths, and you, honest to goodness, in that moment, you thank your body for the emotion. Because so often we suppress the emotion. We think what's wrong with me with the emotion. We don't want to let the emotion out because we think that it will run wild or it will annoy others. But one of the first steps is just to say, hey, I appreciate you, body, for emoting, because it is time to start not trying to avoid emotion, but the way you get past emotion is to go through. It is how you heal, right? Now, what is really fascinating about this is, so what you will find that if I'm working with somebody and we're really trying to explore your emotions, is you'll start to notice that, all right, I've felt that feeling before. When have I felt it before? And honestly, you can usually pull back into previous relationships, childhood, adolescence, times where you recognize, oh, I've felt that before. My body was trying to communicate something to me, but I didn't know what to do with it. Now, what is really interesting, the reason I like this simplistic emotion wheel is it's also based on the color palette, which I did not know. And so what you do on this one is you look directly across from angry and annoyed, and it's loved and respected. So the thought here is that when you are feeling this angry and annoyance, it's because what you are missing in that moment is love and respect. And would that fit what you're talking about? Okay. She said it does. I can tell you about when my friend Preston went through this with me the first time, and I was talking about a particular situation, and he took me through this uncomfortable. I was sad, and I felt lonely. So then I did the whole thing, breathed into it. Mine was in my chest as well. And then what was fascinating was when we went across the emotion wheel, it was playful and affectionate. So it just fit so well. So when I was feeling sad and lonely about something, it was because what I was missing in that moment was a playful, affectionate situation or occurrence. So then I went and petted dogs or something like that, because they're always playful and affectionate. And then I was healed, and I never felt that way again. And I lived happily ever after. Isn't that good though?
Like, if you give it to yourself,
yeah.
you need it from anyone.
Absolutely. And that's why I think that this is so significant. As a matter of fact, okay, reach out to me through my website at tonyoverbay.com and let me know you want the emotion wheel, and I'll send it over to you, because I think that it really is simple, but it really is powerful. And I like what you're saying, Sid, because it will help you start to recognize my emotions are actually okay, and they are trying to tell me something, and it's okay. Wait. Yeah, I'll go this way. Oh.
Okay.
See, that's what
Real Nerd says he knows that you jammed to Sabrina Carpenter.
I do, a little bit.
He's more of like a Chapel. How do you even say her name? I love her, but
Pink Party Club, but
you're there. You're at the entrance.
Yeah.
You're trying to get in. Okay. I was diagnosed with CPTSD, and it feels like it runs in my bloodstream.
It does.
And then she said, get you out of my skin anxiety, or get out of my skin anxiety. And someone said, we were talking about brains, I think, and emotions, and they said it's there as a protective mechanism. And then Chazal said, I wonder what the world would be like if pain and fear were replaced with a noticing awareness. And then our CPTSD girlie said, I noticed it, feel it, know what it is, ... but no matter what, make it stop. Maybe she means she can't make it stop. Do you want to talk about that, CPTSD?
I do, yeah. By the way, I always love when we get people here, and especially, I mean, the regulars, like that's so nice. And Sid and I are going to try to be back more often because I really appreciate the community. And then for those that are here for the first time, welcome, and please subscribe.
That's not what it's called.
What is it? Follow me. Complex post-traumatic stress disorder is something I work with a lot. It's pretty common in things like emotionally immature or narcissistic relationships. And what is unfortunate about CPTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, is it's basically around prolonged exposure to trauma. Now, I work in the world of emotional maturity and narcissistic abuse. And in those scenarios, when you are continually told that you're wrong, when gaslighting is the norm, when most anything that you say is going to be challenged, and this is that concept around, okay, so I say you're not leaving, right? But it's when you are constantly just on this high alert because your reality is questioned, then over time, I mean, and I am not a doctor, I'm not a neurologist, this is my layman's understanding of it, but your heart rate is elevated on a consistent basis. Your cortisol, your adrenaline is flowing, and in the book The Body Keeps a Score, Bessel van der Kolk, the author, talks about how the neurons that fire together wire together. And so over time, it's like your baseline cortisol is high. Your startle response is really short. You've got a short runway of being emotionally reactive. And so you're constantly in this state of fight or flight or freeze or fawn. And then what happens is your brain starts to send more blood flow to the areas of reactivity of this traumatic response. And there's some tie-in that when you suffer from CPTSD, that it affects your memory, your short-term memory, which I think is located in the hippocampus. And I have had it explained to me that it's because of this concept of if your memory is continually being challenged, then your brain, and it's pretty fascinating to see that it's this survival mechanism is saying, okay, apparently my memory is continually challenged and it's wrong. So why do I even need to send blood flow to that area of the brain? We need to put all things to the amygdala, the fight or flight response, because we need to be on high alert because we're continually being gaslit or told that we're wrong. And so you do that long enough, again, neurons that fire together, wire together, and what it feels like to be you, we talked about earlier, your implicit memory, based on the slow residue of your lived experiences, this is what it feels like to be me on constant high alert. So hopefully you can eventually find your way out of these unhealthy relationships. And while I'm talking about dealing with that with narcissistic or emotionally immature people or relationships, it can be from long-term trauma from childhood abuse, any kind of domestic DV, or prolonged exposure to conflict. And that can be different for different people because now you're looking at all the things that make up you, your nature and nurture and I always say birth order and DNA, abandonment, rejection, hopes, fears, dreams, all of those things that make you you. And then when you expose that to prolonged trauma, then it can start to affect your overall mental state and well-being. So I think that sit still in the bathroom, probably too much information. I can't think of anything funny that she's doing. She's out rescuing an animal of some sort. Okay, she's back. Did you hear that? I didn't know that you had the headphones on. Rescuing an animal.
Why did you have to call me out like that, dude?
Everybody poops.
Well, I did. Literally, if I would have been in there for way longer.
That's a fair point.
So, okay. Our girlie said... Sorry, I'm hearing double again. Okay. Our girlie said, I noticed it. Okay, we read that one. I go into tachycardia often. I don't know if I said that right. Yeah. People think I work out all the time. I don't. I'm suffering. I stay in a state of who is out to hurt me. Trust is non-existent. It's been multiple traumas. Yes, then when I got sick, who I had left, COVID-19 working in trauma ICU ruined me. Do you wanna like scroll through so you can make more understanding of that? And then you said what you want. You were asking her if she had gotten help before.
Yeah.
Here, I'll pass the mic back
Okay.
to you.
Okay. Oh, and and somebody said that was insightful and deep. Okay, it's been multiple traumas. Then when I got sick, who I left. Let's see. Okay, Real Nerd said you didn't hear you wash your hands.
I washed my hands. I could smell the soap.
Okay. Okay. And Lala, yes, I have. Okay, I'm a complex case, absolutely. And on that one, man, I do. I cannot express enough empathy for what you're going through, because I know that takes a prolonged amount of time to get to that point where it can feel like, the trauma is just constantly there. I know that it can heal, but it takes a lot of time and patience. And so often I think it's hard for people to completely remove themselves from the environment or the relationship that led to the CPTSD. So I want to acknowledge that, man, I know that can be really, really difficult. And I've just started doing more as a therapist, doing EMDR, eye movement desensitization and realignment. And that is a trauma therapy. And there are a lot of different trauma therapies. There's accelerated resolution therapy and brain mapping and brain spotting and EMDR. And so I would just highly recommend something, and you probably are, I would imagine, but something that is trauma specific, I think would be really helpful as well. Okay. What else do we have here? Yeah. Okay.
Did you read up to this point with her?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Please tell me homework to get out and stay out. Someone said, or to get put and stay out. Maybe they meant get out and stay out. Confirmation on that. And then our girlie said did you read this? I don't think you did. It all unfolded in 2020. The patients in lost along with my mom and 4 other family members in my unit. I went in not shock. Maybe I went in shock. I'm not sure. And then she said, please give me homework to get out and stay out.
Okay. So let me first say, this is where I am offering thoughts.
She went into shock.
Went into shock. Okay, she went into shock. But it would be pretty irresponsible for me to then say, okay, here is your treatment plan, just because everyone really, and this sounds so cliched, and I do not want this. I hope this doesn't sound dismissive, but if you're working with a professional, then I would imagine they know more about your case than I would. But that's where I would just really recommend some pretty intensive treatment for trauma. And homework would just be basically to never, that's a big statement, but to just continually work on yourself. Because, and this is, again, I feel like we need cliche alerts, but ultimately you're the only one that will eventually be able to help you. And as you find these different tools, a lot of times people think, or they feel like, okay, that one worked until it didn't.
Wait, pause.
Yeah.
And don't apologize for unloading. This is a safe space for that. You can unload all over this room.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. No, thank you, Sid. And it's really fascinating. Never apologize. I mean, I hope that you you literally are apologizing. So I appreciate your thoughts there, but find people and friends and relationships where you don't feel like the need to apologize for being you. And I think that can actually be really helpful as well, because that's probably part of that CPTSD response of, if you're worried about how other people will interpret you or take you, which I understand, I do, but if somebody is still not really wanting to understand, I put out a podcast on my Virtual Couch podcast this week on genuine curiosity, because so often people feign curiosity or they ask questions, but they really are not trying to be genuinely curious. They want you to say something so that then they can tell you why that's wrong. So I would love for you to find people that are genuinely curious about your experience, that you feel safe and that you can express yourself. So often when people have a hard time stopping expressing themselves, it's because they're used to people eventually shutting them down. And it's really wild, because what's, I think, often happening, and it can be subconscious, is your own brain is saying, I may never get heard again, so I need to really try to express myself, because hopefully that will help me, that will heal me. Again, the brain is a don't get killed device. It wants to live. It really does. And it's trying everything in its power to be able to feel heard and understood and seen, because that is a way that you are going to start to feel better. It's vitamin C, which is the human connection. But when we're trying to put ourselves out there and somebody is telling us that they think we could have done our lives better, or they would have done it a different way, I always say that is so adorable that you think that you would have handled my situation differently, because you really don't know what it feels like to be me. I kind of think that I've gone on a tangent, and I think there was a question that I haven't answered.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Oh, is it the treatment plan?
Information on the other question, because that was a different person.
Oh, it was. Okay.
So it was, she asked for homework on how to get out of a toxic relation, or how to get out and stay out of a toxic relationship.
Okay, and we're back. That one can be difficult. We talk often on the lives on my podcast about the trauma bonding, and if you are in a toxic relationship, first of all, the fact that we're talking about it and you're seeking resources is a great first step. There's a couple of thoughts I would love to share. One of those is, I gotta count with my fingers. So on my Waking Up to Narcissism podcast, I have 5 rules of interacting with a narcissistic or an emotionally immature person. The first one, and we talked earlier about this today, raise your emotional baseline. Self-care is not selfish. This just in.
There's this might go along with what you're saying.
Okay. My father-in-law told my 6-year-old while he's sick to go outside and wait for his dad to get done mowing grandma's yard, because he was not supposed to be over there if he's sick, because grandma cannot get sick. But the way he had no empathy for my 6-year-old boy, I was so upset. I don't blame you. Yeah. And man, a kid is just being a kid. They're trying their best. And so when somebody is making the kid feel bad about the kid just existing and interacting and communicating, that is not, I would say the psychological term is not cool. But that's not as dramatic as I want it to be. But I see you on this, because grandpa needs to know that he has an opportunity to be more empathetic and model emotional maturity with his grandson. Because what he's showing his grandson is, hey, when you get annoyed, you can be rude, and then you can apologize later, and then maybe be forgiven for it. I digress. 5 things. Raise your emotional baseline. You have to have self-care, because, and when you think about it this way, because you're interacting or trying to get out of an unhealthy relationship, so you have to be in a good place. A lot of times people are sleep deprived. They do constantly go to ruminating. What's wrong with me? I can figure this out, and we'll get to why that's important. So raise that emotional baseline. Self-care is not selfish. You need more self-care to put yourself in a position to do a hard thing. The second point is get your PhD in gaslighting, and know when it is, you're not crazy when you're expressing yourself, and especially when a narcissistic or emotionally immature person turns it around on you. That concept of DARVO, it's deny. Holy cow, I'm drawing a blank. DARVO. I know this. This is embarrassing. Yeah. Goodness. Okay. Deny, attack, and then it's reverse the victim and the offender. And that's a huge part of what the toxic person, the emotionally mature, the narcissistic person does, is you bring something to them, they deny it, now they attack you for bringing it up, and now they've reversed the victim and the offender. And now you, the one that was bringing them something, ends up having to apologize. And that's where you just start to think, I don't even know what's going on. So we're raising that emotional baseline. We're getting our PhD in gaslighting. And that leads to the third thing, which is get out of unhealthy conversations. Because when you recognize that you are being gaslit, then that can start to create the crazy making, and it can start to raise your heart rate, spike your cortisol, your adrenaline, and cause you to start to edge toward the amygdala hijack, where you are just going to go into your fight or flight response because you're feeling crazy. So get out of that unproductive conversation. The fourth thing is set healthy boundaries, and please do your work. Go find my podcast on Waking Up to Narcissism about boundaries, because we often think that we are setting a boundary, but we're given an ultimatum. We're telling that person, you can't talk to me that way anymore. And to the narcissistic, toxic, emotionally immature person, they are saying, thank you so much for showing me the buttons that I can push to get under your skin. A boundary is a me thing. If you talk to me that way, then I am going to leave. Period. I don't have to explain myself. I don't even have to tell the person the boundary. I can just know that's a me thing. If this person does this, then I will do this. That is a clear boundary. Ultimatum is going to be attacked. A boundary is most likely going to be pushed and challenged as well, but at least it's something you're doing for you. And then the last thing is to know that there's nothing that you will say or do that will cause that person, this toxic person that you're trying to get space from, to have an aha moment or an epiphany. And that is one of the most difficult things for somebody to give up, is they continually think that, no, this is, if I can just explain this to them, then they will understand and they will start to be nice to me. And unfortunately, if you are in a position where you're wondering, how do I get out of this? Then that is most likely what's happening. And you need to learn that that that's not a healthy relationship, and there's nothing you can say or do that will cause them to have the aha moment or the epiphany. They have to go find that on their own. And most likely they're not doing that. They are actually okay in the relationship, because when you say something, I call it the attack surface. Now they know what they can use to then tell you is wrong, and then they jump back into the one up position, you're in the one down position, and the trauma bond remains. And at some point, and it breaks my heart when people come into my office and they'll say things like, how do I get out of it? And I'll say these things, and then they will say, but I don't know, sometimes they are nice, and that's not a healthy relationship. We're not looking for that every now and again, it's not so bad. And if you really study the concept of a trauma bond, it impacts the same area of the brain that a drug addiction does. So you are craving a hit. Right?
Just said we crave that.
Yeah, we right, and that's one of the and there's I like to get super nerdy deep on this, and until you really discover who you are and you find out what matters to you, you have a strong sense of self. I really do believe at the deepest level of things like a trauma bond is we just need another human to interact with, to know that we exist, and even if that interaction is unhealthy. Because I'll have people that will come in and it's almost on a weekly basis, they're continuing to talk about how bad things are. And then you say, okay, what do you want to do with that? Well, I want to get out. Okay, well, let's talk about ways to. Well, yeah, but he isn't always bad, and so it's still this, it just becomes what the person knows. Back to that implicit memory, or what it feels like to be them, is somebody that finds themselves continually alternating back and forth between, no, it isn't as bad as I think it is, except for when it's really bad. And that is not a relationship that I would recommend, not a healthy relationship to be in. Often when people come in and they'll say, hey, it's been a pretty good week, the translation is, it has not been bad. And the absence of bad in a relationship does not mean that it is good. And it means that, and here's what's difficult, and I never want someone to feel like I'm kicking you while you're down, but there is a concept of enabling when it comes to a trauma bond. And I know it's so difficult, but the more that you make those excuses for that bad behavior, the more that person is learning that it is okay to have that bad behavior, because they just have to be nice a little bit, and then all of a sudden things are back to okay.
This goes just with like what you're saying. She said, I feel like I hate that we have to work on ourselves so much when the other person just sits there and gets away with it. And then Lala said, I think it's the confusion of the lie of life we lived. The lie of life we lived.
Yeah, makes sense.
And to the girlie before that who said, and they just get away with it, I say, then don't let them get away with it, and show them what they don't deserve to have. Yeah. And leave.
Which is the ultimate goal. And I think that if you are asking the question and you're aware of it, give yourself a ton of grace, because there is this path of awakening or enlightenment where you went from, I don't even know what I don't know, I am just existing, and it's maddening and frustrating. Most likely when people are asking these questions, they're at this second point of awakening where now I know, I'm aware of it, but I don't even know what to do. Or when I try to do something about it, it doesn't mean that it gets better. Sometimes it even feels like it gets worse. And I wish I could go back to not knowing what I didn't know, but unfortunately can't put that genie back in the bottle. The good news is, if you continue on this path and hear things like you're hearing today and listen to more podcasts about it, and hopefully you can work with a therapist who understands what emotional immaturity or personality disorders or narcissistic traits and tendencies and abuse looks like, that you can start to really understand and find more tools to be able to start to make a break. Unfortunately, knowing though that as you do, that person is still going to try to push buttons to get you back into the position you've been in, because they get their supply from you. But we go from I didn't know what I didn't know, now I know, and it's hard to do, or I don't know what to do, or I don't do it enough. And eventually I'll move into this phase where I'm doing it, whatever it is, it's the right thing to do. I'm doing it more than I didn't. And that's where you start to feel a shift. And it's like, I think I'm going to be okay. And then you just become, because to get out of this unhealthy relationship, it's going to take some time. Or if you have somebody that can literally just rescue you and take you away, and that can even be hard because of that concept of the trauma bond, because in that moment you almost feel like, okay, I don't know who I am without this chaos or this drama, and that's normal to feel that way. But over time, what we're trying to do is get you to become more differentiated, knowing who you are without needing somebody else to tell you, being able to calm your own anxiety, soothe yourself, being grounded in your response when you do interact with this person, and not needing their validation, knowing that you are okay as you are.
I have a thought.
Okay, I want to hear it.
I feel like if you don't have kids with this person, you need to go no contact. And if you do have kids with them, this is a serious lesson for like your boundaries, and like boundaries that you have to set to only communicate with that person for your kids in that case. But no contact helped me a lot, because I feel like that's the only way you can like erase those passageways in your brain.
Yeah. How hard was it though?
So hard, but it's harder to mess up and contact them and then have to start that healing all over again. You know, like you have to respect yourself so much more than a relationship.
Well, do you remember how hard it was? So like, would you?
I know I can't hear you.
Oh, okay. Okay, so stay right there, because when you would go back into that unhealthy relationship, would you know that this is not really different, or would you tell yourself this time it's different?
I think I always knew deep down that it wasn't going to be different. Mm. But when something feels good, it's easy to convince yourself that it is good. Yeah. That's not the case at all, as like many of the like crackheads on the street, I'm sure, would tell you. Okay.
It's funny, I was about to make a joke of like, or every time I get my gas station donuts, they sure do seem like they're okay. Yeah. Okay. Hey, how long, because I've got a flight to catch at 5 tomorrow morning. So have we done it?
We're probably gonna get cut off soon.
Okay, so we'll go till we get cut off. Yeah, because we won't do the little puzzle piece. So if we get cut off.
Do you want me to update you on what people are saying?
I do, yeah.
It really wears me down. The constant gaslighting and mean anger weakens me. And then Lala said, exactly. I try to convince myself, but I feel the need of their approval. He turned mean when I was sick. Been with him since I was 13. Now I'm 46. Oh. Hate that.
Right.
Hate him. I feel like I feel like you understand it though. Like you understand how your brain works and how it hurts more to go back in the long run. But I understand, or I don't understand, but I can empathize with how hard that would be to leave someone you've been with so long.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and Lala, thank you for sharing that, and especially that's being pretty honest. And I want you to know, a lot of the people that I work with that are trauma bonded, yeah, it's a lengthy relationship to get to that point, and so that's where I don't think anybody would really understand exactly what it feels like to be you. And it's so easy for other people to say, well, just get out and just do whatever. And I know that it's not that easy. When I talk about that first rule of interacting with the narcissist or the emotionally immature, raise your emotional baseline, self-care isn't selfish, I hope that you allow yourself to even just start to dream and think about what it would be like to be in a healthy relationship. Or better yet, start to really explore your own true sense of self. Because most likely when people have been in these emotionally immature narcissistic relationships, they have not been allowed to like the things they want to like, do the things they want to do, because the narcissistic person believes that's a threat. Because if you are doing things you want to do, then therefore you will leave me. So that's where they go for control. You love or control in an adult relationship, not both. And the immature narcissistic person opts for control. That is how they think that they need to act in order to keep someone close to them. And that is the part that I'm not trying to say that to then have more empathy for them, but it's when often the nice, kind person in the relationship is projecting what they think onto the narcissistic person. So they will often tell themselves, well, man, I don't want them to feel bad, or that would be really hard for them too if I all of a sudden wasn't here. And man, I hate to say it, but bless your heart for thinking that way, because that is not the way that the narcissistic or emotionally immature person thinks. They are thinking about in the moment what is best for them, and what do they need to say or do to take that one-up position. And then again, most often it is to put you down, or crush your dreams, or tell you how difficult it is for them of whatever it is that you want to do or what you're saying. But the sooner that you can start to find yourself, what do you like, take action on things that matter to you, find a sense of purpose, it will start to shift the dynamic in the relationship. Not that this person will eventually then say, oh my gosh, you seem so confident now, I think you need to go fly the nest. They won't say that, but you will start to recognize that would be what's best for you. And that will be a big part of this healing.
This is a deep question.
Okay, let's go deep.
I'm afraid to get out because of my kids resenting me for all of the changes to come that aren't their fault.
This is a common one. Or do you have more?
Do you want my opinion?
Yeah, I do.
I think that they would be so much more grateful that you chose yourself and a healthy relationship, and in that you chose to show them what a healthy relationship is. I just feel like there's, even if they don't understand it right away, like I promise you, like choosing yourself is the right choice in the end, I think, for your kids.
And I agree with Sydney, and I think I can speak for her as well, and that I know that is difficult. This is something I deal with so much in my practice as somebody that works with people that are in these narcissistic or emotionally immature relationships, is often people stay in it for the kids. And who am I to say that this is not a every single time, but I follow me on this, and hopefully we don't get cut off on this, but I sometimes want to look at it like some sort of math formula where a kid gets their whole sense of self from external validation, meaning that they know who they are because of their interaction with others, primarily their parent or their caregiver. When they're witnessing an emotionally immature narcissistic relationship, often what I call pathologically kind person is trying to figure out how to keep the peace so that the narcissistic person doesn't take it out on the kids. So the kid themselves is not feeling seen or understood. They don't have a secure attachment with the parent, and I am not trying to make anyone feel guilty because it's a survival instinct. So then the parent starts to worry, okay, well, I would rather do this than have them spend some of the time with the narcissistic parent and then me. What I've found in my practice over years, 20 years doing this, is that when the person finally chooses themselves and they do get out of this really unhealthy relationship, now when they get a chance to interact with the kids now know what it feels like to actually be seen and understood and have this attachment with a parent. Because now you're not trying to buffer from the other parent. You are being able to say, how are you? Tell me more. What do you want to do? What's that like? Help me understand. And then I think this is a 100% me theory here, but then when they interact with the more narcissistic parent, they are learning a surface level relationship. They're seeing someone that still needs the kid to manage their emotions. And so then they get to see now both, and which one is going to feel more connected, or where are they going to feel more seen, or where are they going to get that whole sense of self? It's now with the parent that has chosen them and chosen themselves and is showing them now, this is what it feels like to have a secure attachment with a parent. And I'm so sorry that you have not had one before, because I was doing my best trying to protect you from this emotionally immature narcissistic parent.
Puzzle piece.
Okay, well, we can let it go because I got to run.
All right, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah. Okay, but what did you think about that?
I totally agree. And I also agree with Marissa because she said that I'm the GOAT. And then our girlie said, the kid will be better off with two happy parents than one that fights all the time. And also, yeah, like if you don't choose yourself, and if you don't choose to show a secure attachment to yourself, then your kid's just going to seek out a-hole boyfriends in the future who argue and who fight because they think that that's what love is. Instead of having self-love and like giving that love to themselves, which is what you need to show them.
Yeah. Okay. That is a nice way to wrap things up, because that self-love is, I do believe it's somewhat narcissist repellent. I think boundaries are, And I think that self-love is, because if you are confident in who you are, you will see right through the crap that the narcissistic person is trying to use to love bomb you. And now we come full circle. And what we started with tonight is that, you know, it is perfectly okay for you to have your own thoughts, feelings, emotions. And one of the things, Kate, maybe here's the last little bit of advice, is that when you sense that, if let's say you're in the beginning of a relationship,
34 seconds.
then choose yourself and remember who you are, and you're awesome, and you are enough. And if you don't love yourself, you can't love anybody else. What are some other cliches? And
Just do it.
just do it. Go and do and be, and just being and doing. Go visit the website, TonyOverbay.com. Listen to all the podcasts. Sydney, thanks for manning the questions tonight. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time. Okay, first in the questions.
So check that out. You don't know what you don't know is what it's all about.